Welcome back.
Yes.
I know it's been a few days.
This is a podcast.
Sure has been.
This is So Anyway It's Haunted.
Yes.
I'll say.
I'm your host, Ashley. Joining me are...
Chris.
Why is there always such a long pause? We've done this so many times. And...
Monster Mac.
And...
Other
Chris. Yeah, other Chris. Other Chris is joining us again. And guess what?
Yeah. We got the Chris hat trick.
Yeah.
The three Chris's.
Yeah, it's a trifecta.
Yeah.
Curse of three. The Chris of three.
The rule of Chris.
Yep.
Yeah, so what's up? Welcome back. I hope you are doing well. I hope you're enjoying the spooky season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Season.
Season.
I hope that you have gone to a pumpkin patch. I hope that you've watched a scary movie. I hope that you are enjoying your life. I hope that you have not experienced sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
I hope that
Unless
you're doing
you want
well.
to, at least once in your life.
No, Christopher.
Don't
Nice
ever
try.
want to.
No. So this is a little bit of a different episode, as you can tell. We are going to do a mini-sode.
Yep.
Because currently, as you are listening to this, Chris and I, this one.
Yes.
Yeah, that one. Are in Denver, Colorado.
And I am cat sitting.
Yes.
Good job,
And,
you.
Look out for the demon closet.
Huh?
Yeah. Just don't sleep in there. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
If you wake up in there, be worried.
If you wake up and the door's open, you need to walk slowly towards the door with your back towards it. Make sure don't look and close it quickly.
Yeah. That happened the other night, actually. Half of that. The first part happened.
You're doing a really good job of convincing me to watch this cat.
I mean, I looked up at it after I closed it, and I was trying to fall asleep, and he was already asleep, and I looked up, and it was wide open, and I was like, oh, great. And so I freaked out, and I looked all in the house, and there's only one room, so no one's in here. And then the entire night, I kept waking up and seeing shadows, but it was just like the TV, or like the poster in the corner, and I kept waking up, be like, oh my gosh, someone's there. But it was not anyone.
Throw some salt at it.
Everything was fine until the cat started screaming at the door. Both of them.
Hey, you get away from the door!
All right. Yeah, so we're just gonna read some listener stories. We got a bunch of really awesome listener stories.
What?
And yeah. So let's dive into it. Shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. So this is the other story that our dear friend and favorite shout out, Kenny Chilton, sent us. We read the last one last week.
Oh, yeah.
The first one last week, about the man in a white suit with the red headband that was in his dreams, and then he saw him in real life.
That's pretty creepy.
And so here
That, my friends, is called true
2.
love.
Alrighty.
Destiny.
Predestined from the beginning.
Kenny says, when I was very young, starting at age 6, I started hearing voices whenever I tried to sleep. Every time it would start as one voice, an angry male voice, yelling things at me that I had done wrong that day. You're mean to your brother. You stole an extra cookie for dessert, etc. Small stuff. This voice would eventually turn into several voices that were yelling not just at me, but at each other. There would be a raucous argument happening in my head. I would cover my ears, put my head under my pillow, and cry until I eventually fell asleep. Some nights, it was so intense, I would be woken up in the night by the voices still arguing hours later. Oh my lord.
Wow.
This wasn't just me imagining voices, at least not from my perspective. It was voices that were outside of myself, removed from my own inner voice, which I could still hear and control. I went on like this for 2 full years. Every single time I tried to sleep, these voices would keep me awake. I would stay awake as long as possible, reading books or sneaking my toys into bed to play with them. After 1 year, I told my parents, but not much was done about it. I was terrified of sleep, and I believe I've carried that fear into my adulthood. Yawning was a personal dilemma, because it meant I was going to be hearing these intense, scary arguments soon. A month before my 8th birthday, my family was visited at home by 2 Mormon missionaries. I grew up in the LDS Church, so this was not unusual, but these were 2 missionaries assigned to our area. One of the guys, whose names I can't remember because it was too long to pronounce, was from Zimbabwe. He and I immediately connected and were having great conversation about something non-meaningful when all of a sudden he stopped mid-sentence. I remember being afraid of how quickly he stopped our conversation. He stopped the conversation and straight up asked me, "Are you hearing voices while you're sleeping?" Everyone in the room stopped talking at this point. I distinctly remember my mom asking, "How did you know that?" "Nothing." He said, I had been talking about would have hinted, nothing he and I had been talking about would have hinted that I was hearing voices. He calmly repeated, "Are you hearing voices while you're sleeping?" And I said, "Yes," my heart beating heavily in my chest. He asked to speak to me and my parents privately with the other missionary, and my parents told my brothers to leave. He said I needed to get baptized and the voices would go away. Being baptized at 8 years old is very common in the Mormon Church. I was so relieved that he had a solution that I agreed. A month later, I did get baptized, and that was the first night in months that I fell straight to sleep. No more voices. The Zimbabwean missionary is the one who baptized me, and after that weekend, he was transferred to another church, and I never saw him again. I still have no idea how he knew I was being haunted by voices in my head, but I am so grateful he did.
Wow.
Wow.
That's pretty intense.
That's really intense.
Yeah.
That is wild. All right. Thank you for sharing that with us, Kenny. That's rough, man. Okay. This one is from, I believe her name is Leanna. She is a really cool listener, and she has a couple stories. She has 3 stories, actually. 4 stories. Just kidding.
Whoa.
5 stories. Just
Whoa.
kidding. So we're gonna read
7.
We're gonna read like 1 or 2 of them. Alright, she says, "Hi, this might be really long and I'm so sorry. My name is Leanna and I've been listening to you guys for a while now. I heard you through a mutual friend. I work with her. I've had many spooky things happen to me and my family growing up, and I'd really love to share. Alright, so let's get into it. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, I had an imaginary friend named Elizabeth, which is normal for a little girl to have, right? Well, there were things happening in our house my mom couldn't explain, like toys being moved and played with when us kids weren't around, etc. So my mom went to a psychic, and she told her there were 2 spirits in our home, one by the name of Elizabeth, an 8-year-old girl. She said she was harmless. So later on that week, my mom was going through her toys and books and found the written name Elizabeth in cursive in all of our books. My sisters and I were still too young to even write in cursive. My mom said that really freaked her out. She threw the books away and just moved on. I still had my imaginary friend for another 3 years, and I remember my sisters trying to convince me that Elizabeth was real. I knew she was real to me, but they tried to convince me that she was like a ghost. We sat in the living room with a TV, tape, and VCR and tested the theory that she was real by asking Elizabeth to do something to the TV. The TV went from off to completely white static. I remember that happening, but I can't remember what happened after. Since then, I stopped having her as an imaginary friend.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty spooky.
Right.
Haven't there been instances before where it's like, I mean, and maybe it's just like in fiction, I don't know, but I feel like I've heard that before, where someone had like a connection, and then whenever they tried to force it to prove itself, it left.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's some homework. I'm gonna dig into that.
That also could be dangerous, too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't play with that stuff.
It's kind of like them being like, "Oh, you want me to hang out more? All right, let's do this."
Yep.
What
Yeah.
if she
Open the
did
floodgates,
the
child.
What if she did the TV thing with her mind because she believed it enough?
Oh.
She's like Matilda.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know because she goes on to say this is her second story.
Oh.
Remember how the psychic said they had 2 spirits in their house?
No.
The second spirit was John, and he followed my family when we moved into a trailer park. Every once in a while, you would see the shadow of a man with an old-looking Western hat on, but only the is he? but I'm sorry, gosh dang it, Western hat on, but only well, gosh dang it,
Not one of them
okay, here it
newfangled
is.
Western hats.
I am getting old. I can't read.
Mm-hmm.
But only the shadow. So like a shadow or silhouette. And you would sometimes see get the feeling that someone is standing over you, behind you, watching closely, which I still get to this day sometimes. The psychic says he also thinks it's funny to move and hide stuff in our home to cause stress, which we always had something like that happen. For instance, I was working on a project with my stepdad on the living room floor, and I was making him mad because I kept playing with the scissors, so he took them from me and put them on top of our entertainment center. When he needed them, he told me to grab them, but they weren't there. He was so mad at me for playing with him and told me he wasn't joking around, but they weren't there. We never moved the scissors, and I never moved from my spot, and neither did he. So we went looking for them. We found them way down our long hallway. I know that's just weird, but there's literally no way for that to happen. Recently, something similar happened to me like this happened to me in my apartment. I put 2 packs of batteries away in my husband's dresser in the closet. Later on, I found one of the packs on the floor in the living room. I went to check the dresser to see if I was mistaken, and we had 3 packs, but I only found one in the dresser, the second on the floor. I have a feeling John always has followed me around.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to take this very seriously, but the moment you said old Western style hat, all I could think of was Doug Dimmadome from Fairly Odd Parents.
Doug Dimmadome.
So I'm trying to.
Owner of the Ding Dang Dimmalone?
Ding
But,
ding ding.
What is it?
Owner of the Dimmadome.
Yep.
My memory is foggy.
I just see
Well,
the shadow of a really tall hat.
It is weird that is the first thing that came to mind. When you said Western style, I didn't imagine the stereotypical, cowboy hat. I
cowboy
imagine
hat.
like the slightly larger bowler hats that are just
Yeah,
like
just
really
tall. Real tall.
But this marks the second time we've spoken about a Western ghost man.
Oh yeah.
The other being from the wasn't it the hotel
The Driscoll.
Driscoll? Yeah. Didn't they say there was a Western guy, or am I thinking of a previous episode?
Colonel Driscoll did supposedly haunt the hotel.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't he? He also would like show up in women's rooms, right?
Yeah,
Something
That's
like
what it
that.
was.
Yeah.
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 What a creep.
He's a creeper.
All right. So this is an email from a listener named Marissa. She says, "Hi, so anyway, it's haunted.
Hello.
We are one. We are one unit.
Yes.
We
An
create
absolute unit.
an 8-legged
Yeah.
freak of a creature.
It's really quite distressing.
We should say hello all at once. 1, 2, 3.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, we had the same idea.
Yes, because we are one.
Yes.
Okay, so my name's Marissa, and I work with Chris. But which Chris? Which Chris? Which Chris? It's that one.
Yes.
Oh, thank goodness.
She says without mentioning which one.
I work with Chris, and I've been listening to your amazing/spooky podcast. Keep up the awesome work, please. Your episodes totally make my week. Oh, that's like so nice.
We try and
Oh my
keep it
gosh.
spooky.
Wah. I'm tripping.
Wow.
I'm tripping. Wow. I'm tripping. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
This is the highlight of my week, even though I berate Mac and Ellie anytime before we record. I just like to make him really tender and make him almost cry, and then we press record.
For every subscription, there's a fraction of hope that returns to my heart.
Yeah.
And
Anyway.
another shackle put into these chains.
Oh my lord. Okay, so she said I've got a spooky story of my own for y'all that may or may not be connected to the black-eyed children.
I'm
I'm
listening.
not sure. I'll let you guys decide. Oh my lord, this is horrible. I don't want to know
Yes,
it. I just some of these I read before, but some of them I don't. This is not one I've read before, so I'm definitely gonna be freaking out.
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. I'd like to think that the black-eyed children are fake, only because I don't want them to be real.
Yeah.
When I
I'm
listened to that
afraid I
episode,
believe it.
when I listened to the black-eyed children
I am a
episode
black-eyed child.
on and that's why we drink, I was in the shower listening to it, and I didn't, once my shower was over, I didn't want to get out because I was like
Yeah.
afraid they were going to be on the other side of the shower curtain, like,
And they'd be like, "Hey, let us in the shower
hey, so our shoes are dirty. Can we come into the shower?
and use your telegraph."
Pardon me, Mum.
Use the telegraph.
Could you open up the curtains and let me in?
Oi.
No. Be gone with you, child.
Ew.
Wow.
All right, let's do it. She says, I went to a small high school in South Texas and competed in poetry reading for UIL, a school competition league thing. We all were in UIL, which is
Prose poetry.
hilarious.
Yeah.
I too did that.
Yes, we're all nerds.
I did not.
Well, I mean,
Except
you
for
did theater UIL.
theater.
Yeah.
It counts.
Our team ended up doing well enough to travel to San Antonio for regionals my junior year. The school put us up in a La Quinta, your favorite,
Yeah.
or something, or a La Quinta or something, and I stayed in a room with 2 of my friends.
It's the one right across from what is it? La Tierra? The one with the bakery in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mi Tierra,
Mi Tierra.
with the marketplace after,
Yeah.
behind it.
Yeah, that place
Okay.
is cool.
Sweet. We love San Antonio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Go to green vegetarian cuisine. It's huge and it's amazing. They
Oh,
have
yeah.
everything's vegan. So one night during our stay, I woke up abruptly to a very loud banging on our hotel door. It took me a second to really wake up, but when I did, I realized that there was also a baby crying really loudly along with this super loud banging. And I, Max shaking his head. And I just want to clarify, these weren't some light knocks from housekeeping. It sounded like someone was trying to literally break the door down, and that baby was letting out some blood-curdling screams. That was a weird way that I said screams. I'm just scared.
Yeah.
I started to freak out, and my mind went to all the possibilities of what could be happening. Was someone in trouble? Was the baby okay? Is someone playing a prank? Right then, I realized that one of my roommates was sitting straight up in her bed. I looked at her. I looked at her like, do you hear this? And she, oh, I'm sorry. Gosh dang it, I shouldn't have said that, because
no.
I think we have, like, some kids that listen.
Family
to
show. It's
Sorry.
a family show.
Bleep that
Sorry,
up.
sorry,
Whip it
sorry.
out, yeah.
Oops. We're going to have to do another disclaimer. There's a cuss in this.
Yeah, here, I'll say something and then you can edit it over it. Crap.
Okay.
Shoot.
Okay.
Poo-poo.
Yeah, there you
Poo
go.
poo. Doo doo. Do you hear this?
Dookie?
Doo doo. And she gave me a stare that said, "Yes, I do." We sat there staring at each other for what felt like a while, with the banging and screaming going on nonstop in the background. When she very quietly said, "Should we open the door?" No,
No.
girl.
Eh.
What are you talking about?
Looked at the eye hole. Then get cursed.
Yeah. I quickly said no because I'm not dumb. I like you, Marissa. I almost said Melissa. Sorry, Marissa.
No, stupid.
I like you, Melissa.
That
I
reminds
like
me of
you,
a really cool
Matumbo.
part in Silent Hill 4. It's really interesting. Because, like, you're trapped in your apartment, but then,
yeah.
you can look through the eye hole, and there's, like, occasionally people out there, but then you look
Ew.
through the eye hole, and you see yourself. But you can only see yourself, like, from the eyes down.
Ew,
Yeah, it's really
that's
weird.
creepy.
I want to play all those games.
Yeah,
All
they're
right.
really good.
Anyway, I quickly said no because I'm not dumb, but as soon as I said that, all the noise stopped. The insanely loud banging, the baby crying, just all halted to a stop. Just absolute silence. WTF. We sat up for a few minutes after, and I remember not hearing any walking, shuffling, or baby noises. I used to be a preschool teacher. Oh, that's cool. And I just wanted to note that I have never heard a baby go from screaming to straight silence immediately. That's true. Just physically impossible. So we were totally freaked out. I can't remember if we said anything to each other after the noises stopped, but eventually I drifted back to sleep. In the morning, we talked about that night, making sure that both of us actually heard everything and that we weren't just dreaming. We asked our other roommate if she heard anything, and she said no. The school had rented out the whole floor of the hotel for the UILers. So we went and asked all the teachers and students in the rooms around ours if they heard anything. They all said no. Some of the teachers even started teasing us about our experience, which is always super comforting. Am I right? I know, right? Come on, man. We didn't hear the knocking the other nights, and we never really figured out what really happened that night. But this is one of the experiences I will never forget because I know because I know someone else heard the exact same thing I did. That friend and I don't talk much. Sorry, hold on. Sorry. That friend and I don't talk much anymore, but every once in a while I'll get a message from her saying something like, "Hey, remember that night? 'Cause I do." Well, that's my spooky story. Sorry if it was a bit long. No, it's not
No,
long.
that was
I
awesome.
love long
That was,
stories.
Yeah.
Perfecto.
Yeah. When I
And thanks to your story, I'll never forget it too.
yeah, that is so horrifying.
Yeah,
what
that's
what
pretty
would
good.
y'all have done?
I would have looked through the eye hole.
Yeah.
I also would have done that.
Yeah.
And I would have called the desk downstairs.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the next morning I would have been like, "Hey, can I see like the I mean, they're high schoolers, so like
Yeah.
high schoolers probably aren't going to think about doing this, but like I wouldn't, I'd be like, "Hey, can I see like the security tapes for last night by my
Yeah.
on my floor because something's weird."
That reminds me of that video, that YouTube video of that security guard at that hotel. And like people are calling in because they're
my
screaming.
Lord.
Like,
There's a
bloody
woman
murder.
screaming,
Yeah, coming
yeah.
from a room. Mm-hmm. And he's just like on footage, like sort of opening the door and then like walking in, and like everything's completely dark in there because there's no one in there.
Yeah.
But then he sort of like walks out and gets freaked out and runs away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
Like,
interesting.
Like someone on the floor below him. I mean, he can also hear the screaming.
Yeah, well, you can
He
hear
could-
it on the video.
Yeah, you can hear it on the video. He could hear it from outside the door, and he like kind of he doesn't kick in the door, but he kind of like pushes open the door, and there's no one in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's freaking terrifying. You should do that hotel.
that's pretty cool.
I forgot which hotel that was. That was freaking horrifying. Anyway, she said, no, the story's not long. We love long stories. Sometimes, especially when we first started, I kind of asked around to family and friends to give me stories, and they'd just be like, "Oh yeah, I saw a man, and it wasn't a man," and that was it. I'm like, "Come on,
It was
man.
spooky.
Come on,
I saw a man, then he
Give me
wasn't
something.
there.
Give me something." Anyway,
Dimmadome
I
stood
would-
above me.
I would,
ew.
I would probably challenge the crying baby to a crying match.
Oh, because you were so scared.
Me personally, I would just
No, just as a
bury my
challenge.
head.
It's a challenge. It's a man challenge.
No.
Yeah.
You would do what? I'm sorry, we interrupted you.
I would just bury my head and start crying, but it's at that point that the violins would set in and start doing that shrill movie thing where it's like
Yep.
The Insidious thing.
Yeah.
I know that I don't get the music in Insidious.
glad
Anyway,
that-
Man,
sorry.
speaking of Silent Hill, the baby sounds remind me of PT.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Rip.
That was a fun night.
Yeah. That was frustrating.
Anyway, she says, sorry, Marissa, your story is not long. It's awesome. She said, your episode about the black-eyed children reminded me of it, especially because while we didn't see anything, it really seemed like something was trying to get us to let it in. She said, thanks so much. Can't wait to hear the next episode. P.S. You guys should definitely talk more about the Dyatlov Pass incident. The whole incident's probably one of the spookiest, scariest mysteries that I've ever heard of.
Is
It's
that the
crazy
Russian
stuff.
one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait.
You
Yeah.
briefly talked about that on your
Yeah,
Yeti podcast, I believe.
Yeah, dude.
Or-
Oh,
or
you mean the
Yeti
one
segment.
where the people went up the mountain and
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like they were all dead and found naked, and one of the person's tongues was missing.
Yeah.
But
But it was
they-
like two
but-
groups separated.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Like one of the groups was like stripped of clothes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then like the tents were like torn from the inside out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spooky
wild.
stuff. Spooky stuff.
All right, we have one more story I'm gonna read. This is from. I'll just go ahead and jump right in. It says, "Hey, greetings from San Antonio." Another San Antonio story. Incoming message from your second. Gosh, dang it, Bobby. All right. Incoming message from your second favorite Mormon friend, Rory. Yes, this is
We don't
a
rank our
story.
Mormon friends.
It's a
from
Rory story.
Rory.
He's
It's
about-
a Rory story.
He's about
Did you know
to
he was in
say
San Antonio?
that years
okay.
and years ago he went to a hotel and banged on someone's door and cried like a baby.
Cried like a baby.
Yeah.
Drew was right beside me. He had a really great crying baby voice. Anyway, he says, second favorite Mormon friend, Rory. The first probably being Brody. He's everyone's favorite. He says, you guys are killing it. I subscribe to you guys instantly, and I'm loving it. I'm usually sitting at my desk at work, one headphone in, listening to So Anyway It's Haunted. It is great to hear the voices of old friends. Reminds me of the awesome conversations we used to have at high school. Every now and then, I will burst out laughing here at work, and all my coworkers are thinking I've lost my mind. Since there is nothing notable to cause such laughter, to say the least, you guys have made me look like a lunatic in the greatest way possible.
That's awesome.
Glad.
Cool.
Keep it up.
Yeah. Oh, we need to talk about a shout out. Who wanted their shout out? Who was it? Gosh dang it.
Rory wanted to shout.
Yeah, Rory.
Oh, that's right. No, because he says it in the end of his email. I forgot that.
yeah.
I was like, we have to give someone a shout out.
Does he specifically say, give me a shout out?
Yes, he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Anyway, he goes on to say, corrections corner.
I can only wait.
Anybody want to know who's being corrected?
Let's take a wild guess here.
No, it's Izzy. Izzy, you're the one being corrected.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Surprise, surprise.
Bring
Remember that episode?
All right. Okay, so I just want to say, I'll just read it, and then I'll say what I have to say.
I can already hear him
He
saying
says,
it.
correction corner. The Mormon prophet that restored the church is named Joseph Smith, not John Smith.
I know.
But those names are pretty close, so no biggie. I would like to say that the next day I Googled the Mormon prophet and screenshotted it and sent it to Mac.
Yeah.
I looked it
and
up
we were like,
while we were
oh, well.
recording, and I was shaking my head because I already knew.
Yeah, I mean, we both knew that it was wrong, but we just couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I said Robert Smith, which is definitely not. I mean,
Yeah.
so anyway,
Got Pocahontas on the mind.
Boys don't cry.
boys don't cry. They don't. Okay, so he said, I just finished with your Mirrors episode. Have any of you guys seen Poltergeist 3?
Yeah.
Is it Poltergeist 3 that we saw?
It is
That we-
Poltergeist.
that we
That's the one
watched?
in the
Or is it
skyscraper.
Yeah, that's
two?
the one.
Okay, yes, so we
Yeah.
have, yeah.
And
That's like,
I've
Caroline,
removed
Caroline.
myself.
It's super
I've removed
weird.
myself from the Poltergeist series after my last correction corner. So.
Oh my.
It burnt you.
You burnt.
I
What?
do have a correction for Mac. It is Gigantopithecus.
Gigantopithecus!
Every time you goofed up on it, I was cringing at work.
You're gonna have to say it. Let's talk about that in the next one. I cannot wait for that.
No.
I want you to be on the mic for that. Get on the mic. Tear him apart. All right. So he says, I just finished with your Mirrors episode. Have any of you guys seen Poltergeist 3? So yes.
Heck yes.
We have a video of Mac inhaling helium and doing the old lady voice.
Oh, wow.
And then
Yep.
he gets lightheaded at the end.
I
Maybe
forgot
maybe
about
I'll be
that.
able to like save that. It's on my Instagram, my
Yeah.
personal Instagram, so I might be able to save it and post it. Don't go to it's Kane. Don't go to the light, Caroline. It's Kane. Okay. It's certainly not a classic, but in my mind, that is the quintessential scary mirror movie.
Mhm.
If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. I haven't seen it in years, but as a kid, that one used to give me nightmares. So here's one of my paranormal experiences. It's a little heavy on the religious side, so I don't know if it's podcast material.
Yes, it is.
It's always podcast material. Don't ever think it's not. Don't ever think it's not. Or
Just
else.
a quick sidebar. I don't know why this. I'm gonna. If I don't say it now, I'm gonna forget about it. One of the funniest things I can think of is someone like immediately turning into like a skeleton or like a corpse, like a desiccated corpse, and then happens that movie when she touches the mirror and she
Yep.
just turns into a corpse.
Oh, that
I
was,
do not remember that.
It also happens in the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yep.
When what's her face gets
yep,
like blasted
she gets
with the
blasted against the wall. That image is burned into my brain.
We used to make the joke last bit of the side, but we used to make the joke about throwing somebody into a. Calm down, let me finish. We used to make this joke about throwing someone in an oven and an entire human skeleton comes exploding out of it. But then like the joke evolved into like it's the wrong
You're killing
bit.
him! You're killing him!
So it's just like you throw a guy in and like three arms, 2 skulls pop out or something. No rib cage. It's not that funny.
We were in the middle.
But I'm sorry. Back to
We
Rory.
were in the middle of doing a church play, and he starts saying that.
I
And we're
believe it
trying
was
not to laugh in the middle of this like children's show.
because one of the dudes being thrown in the oven gets stuck, and it's, even though his bottom half is stuck in the oven, an entire skeleton still comes out. It's so stupid. I'm sorry. Please. Yes, skeleton funny. Moving on.
Rory has unsubscribed. What'd you say?
It's like when you put $1 in and get quarters out. Same number of pieces.
There you go. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh man, are you gonna be okay?
Yep.
Wow. All right, my dudes. So here we go. So he says that he's not sure if it's podcast material, but it's always podcast material. It
Yes,
doesn't
sir.
matter what your experience is. We want to share it. He said, but you can use it if you want or cut out some of it that may not fit your audience. Dude, we're here for it. We're all here to support each other.
Don't be paranoid. That's my job.
Spooky supporters. All right, so I don't know if you guys think the same as I do. It's okay if you don't, and I don't want to be uncouth by bringing religion into spooky stuff, but here is how it goes.
Please do.
As you guys know, I was a missionary for a couple years in California. When I was in Big Bear Lake, we were teaching this one family, about Jesus. And after a few times visiting them in their home, they brought up an unusual subject. They asked about evil spirits and ghosts and what we believed about it. We started talking about the evil spirits discussed in the New Testament. There's some pretty intense stuff in there, so I explained what I believed about it. And after reading a few scriptures of the Bible, I just explained a little bit about the reality of Satan and evil spirits that follow him. There are episodes of demonic possession and the subsequent cast out of those evil spirits from the people. They looked at me with the relieved look on their faces as if to say, finally someone who might believe us. So they were happy to hear the confirmation that it would be possible for such inexplicable things to occur. I asked them why they asked, and then it got a little creepy. It was a husband, wife, and three children ages 2 to 9. They explained that at times they had experienced feelings of dread inexplicably. I had read about infrasound already and thought that maybe that was a possible solution, but they had mentioned that they weren't in separate parts of the house at the same time. They had But they had mentioned they were in separate parts of the house at the same time. They had felt the same thing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were on different parts of the house. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just couldn't read that sentence. I thought that was kind of strange, but then they mentioned visible apparitions. There was the house. Their house was designed so that you could peer down hallways from separate sides of the house and be able to see the same spot from varying angles. This is freaking don't do that.
Interesting.
They had mentioned that while being in separate parts of the house, they had both seen a dark apparition in the same spot. It was in between them and actually created a translucent fog between the two of them, distorting their view of each other. They also mentioned physical items getting knocked off shelves and tables, not just falling objects, but things that apparently get tossed across the room. The freakiest part of this was the looks on their faces as they told the story. I will never forget the serious intensity that laid on the visage of them both. It sent shivers down my spine. The silence in between their words is what really gives you the willies. Anyways, as a man of the cloth, I had heard tons of stories by people. I may have to tell you some more of them another time. Dude, I would love that. Please
Yeah.
send them all in. While I was out there, but some of them seemed kind of hokey. This one I could tell was different. We continued to visit with them frequently at their house. They did do some research on their land, as cliche as it sounds. They were able to find records of Native American tribes that lived there and had burial grounds in the area. That was the theory they went with on their particular haunting. It was not until a few visits later that I felt it. It was a sensation that the air got the air got heavy. It was it may have been a strange perception thing, but it seemed as though the lights grew dimmer. There was no detectable difference in the smell of the air, nor was there a different taste. Just touching on all the senses in homage to episode 6. My lord, this freaking guy.
He's a true fan.
We gotta send you some merch. We have to make the merch first.
Yeah.
We don't have any merch, but we'll send it to you.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to pay for it though.
I'll go to Walmart and get a Hanes black tea, and then I'll get some glitter glue.
Get a 4-pack of Hanes. We were all in the living room and we could peer into the hall at an angle, and there it was, a shadowy figure standing there. No discernible limbs or face. Kind of an amorphous figure, roughly the shape of a tall man. We all sat there for a few moments in the room wide-eyed. No, oh my... Can you imagine this? I'm freaking out. None of us moved a muscle. It was like we were frozen in time as we stared at the shadow man. It was not a good feeling in there, and experiencing.
Didn't feel good.
It wasn't great. And experiencing something like this firsthand was not something I expected to happen. I recognized that the feeling this apparition brought was not positive. After a minute that felt like a day, I was able to regain composure. I stood up, and in the name of Jesus Christ, I commanded the spirit to leave. Just then, as you can imagine, the apparition dissipated. The air grew lighter, and the weight of the air seemed to lighten. The weight of the air seemed to lighten around us. We sat in deafening, stunned silence for a minute or so, then continued on with our planned lessons. I mean, what are you gonna do? You know. I always felt spiritually strong for those 2 years in particular, and very capable and confident to do such things. It reminded me of the story in the New Testament where the apostles are unable to cast out the evil spirits possessing a man. Then Jesus comes over and does it with ease, stating that to cast this one out requires prayer and fasting. This indicates to me that the more in tune with God you are, the more power you are able to have over evil, in more ways than one. Those 2 years had a lot of prayer, fasting, reading the scriptures, and nonstop talking about God. It was great, and I could feel the difference. He says, well, sorry that took a whole novella to get that out. Dude, seriously, we love it. Yeah, we love the details. I have another really good one about my grandmother, who was murdered when my dad was a teenager.
Oh, whoa.
I know, it's freaking, oh my gosh. I would like to hear that story, but
Yeah.
but in respect. I don't want to be like, you
Right.
told me, give me all the juicy deets, but like,
Tell me all about your murdered grandma.
respectfully, I would love to hear that story, and I'm sorry that happened.
Yes.
I have lots of documentation for that one too, because we wouldn't believe you.
No, seriously, this is
you
her right
You
here.
gotta have the papers. Just
Chalk
kidding.
outline.
Just kidding. Just
Prove
kidding.
it.
We're respectful. We're respectful. He says, thanks for the great podcast. And don't forget my shout out. I've always wanted to be famous, and you guys can immortalize me. He says, you guys can immortalize me forever with a high quality shout out.
Yeah.
Also, I may be coming into town for both Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I would love to see you guys again.
Boy.
Now all
Keep
the people
on
gotta
rocking it.
follow him.
He says, keep on rocking it. You all sound great on microphone.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that was awesome. Well, yeah. So we're all moving in together.
Yeah.
So Chris, this one,
Yeah.
is also moving in with us.
Yeah.
So Mac Nelly, who always throws the Christmas parties in our group, I throw the Halloween parties. He throws Christmas parties, and then Brian, he doesn't like scary things. We don't talk about scary things with him.
Still, he'll be a guest eventually.
No, too scary. He throws the New Year's parties. Anyway, so by Christmas we'll all be moved into a really cool, really awesome house, and we'll have our Christmas party. And
Yeah.
you're invited.
Yeah.
Rory, specifically. Yeah.
No one else.
No, not any of you other listeners.
The address is redacted.
Anyway, so there you go. Those are our stories. I want to thank
That was awesome.
everyone who emailed in. We still have lots of stories to share. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you guys.
thank
Thank
you.
you,
Really
thank you.
appreciate
Yeah,
it. Thank you for joining us on our mini-sode.
So
I hope
nice to
that you're
get my
scared.
heart rate nice and
Yeah.
skyrocketed.
I hope you're real scared. I hope you're listening to this on your commute and
Yes.
the sun's going down and
And you get a chill down your spine.
you forgot to turn your porch light on.
Hey,
Yep.
wait a minute. What's that in the rear view?
Oh no.
He's running after the bus.
Wait, what? Yeah, check us out on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, of course, YouTube. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Join our Facebook group. Follow us on iTunes. Follow us on
You
Instagram.
should probably clarify that with the Facebook group, it's a closed group, so...
Yeah, it's a closed group, but they can
you
request to
should-
join.
Yeah, I was gonna... Oh, is there just a button on there?
Yeah.
I'm not technical.
Yeah, it's fine. No, people request to join it all the time. Anyway, so yeah, we will see you guys next week.
Later, guys.
Okay.
Peace.